All right, this is the discussion for Death's Gambit. Initial release date August 13, 2018. Developed by White Rabbit and published by Adult Swim Games. Costs $20 or your regional equivalent. Platforms Microsoft Windows and PlayStation 4. Death's Gambit is a challenging 2D action platformer with deep RPG elements. As an agent of death bound to his service, unravel the mystery of Cyrodiil and discover the true price of immortality. Yeah, we can introduce ourselves and say the amount of experience we have with the game and our initial impressions. So, I beat the game. I think I have about 14 hours in it. I played a little bit of New Game Plus, and my initial impressions of this game were that I really liked it. I really liked the tutorial area. It was like, it's very similar to Dark Souls. You can't really play it without drawing those parallels. I think as the more I played it, the more I realized like they're not really the same game. I think this game is in some ways a lot more streamlined. In some ways, it has some differences that I think are a little bit frustrating. But overall, I definitely enjoyed my time with it.
I'm Nick. I've played 10 hours and beat the game with it. I'm not sure if I played this game at the right time from other games that I played that I might be more forgiving about this game, because it is another Souls-like game. Draws a lot of the same sort of mechanics. But I felt it's more of a generic 2D platforming game that's relatively easy. So I just liked that change up where it was a Souls-like game, but it wasn't trying to capitalize on how difficult the game is. So overall, I liked it.
All right, I'm Noah. I did not beat it. I only have about 3 hours into it. It took me time to actually get into it, but once I would get into it, I could sit and play for a while. But yeah, like everybody said, it's very, very similar to Dark Souls. I would definitely say, like Nick said, it's easier and a bit more, I feel casual than Dark Souls is. But overall, it was a pretty good game from what I've played.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a meme that we compare to every game to Dark Souls. In a lot of ways, it's a 2D game, so it's nothing like Dark Souls. But the combat, the fact that you have basically an Estus flask, the fact that there are levels and most of the stats and everything are pretty similar. The fact that you die over and over and you respawn at essentially bonfires, but in this game they're statues to the god of death. There's a lot of similarity. The fact that there are basically souls and you use those to level up and buy items. And there's a big hub area that a lot of the NPCs hang out at.
Yeah, so a lot of similarities, but then they start diverging, which I think is the first thing we should talk about. I've tried it the last couple times. The weapons you used and the abilities. So the weapon I used was the giant greatsword, just because that's always been my sort of go-to when it comes to a Souls game, is get a large weapon and be super mobile. And then each weapon you get also has special abilities and magical powers that you can basically use to also diversify your fighting. And I really like that addition. However, I think their options for variety is a little on the low side. Like the greatsword, you have 3 slots for abilities, and the greatsword only has 3 abilities that you can use. So you just use those 3. But for example, like a spear,
were there only 3 abilities with the greatsword?
Yeah, there's 3 abilities for, I think, every weapon except for the halberd.
I'm pretty sure that I had more than 3 abilities I could use with it, because I
googled it and I could only find 3.
The abilities that I would use with it generally are the one where you would jump in the air and do the downward fire attack, and the like bleed attack, and the attack that increases your damage for a short time. Like that might not be specifically for a greatsword.
I don't think so, because the one I haven't heard that one, but the one I had was like you do 2 slashes and it creates like 2 long range.
I had that one for a while.
Okay, I found no others, and I even Googled it and could only find 3.
I used the scythe, and I've only gotten 2 so far.
Can't you buy them from NPCs?
Yeah,
for certain weapons.
That's the only way you can get it in.
Yeah,
I haven't found anybody for the scythe.
The scythe, you won't unlock him until a little bit later in the game.
Okay.
Yeah,
but there will be an NPC who will go to.
A little bit rusty on some of the aspects of this game because I beat it a little while ago. But what do we want to talk about first? We've kind of gotten into some of the game mechanics.
In terms of exploration, I want to just talk about this real quick.
All right, yeah, that's fine.
They really make it seem like you have choices of where to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's very kind of blatantly obvious that you can only go there if you're strong enough. So really, you're kind of already set on a linear path.
Yeah, and some of it's like, again, like Dark Souls, there's an area that you have to spend like a pretty large chunk of souls to go to, which is like up the elevator from basically Firelink. I don't know actually what it's called in game, but yeah, that area definitely is like you need to be a pretty high level and deal a pretty significant amount of damage before you can go there. Otherwise, there's the path to like the cold area, and you can go right, which is like kind of also you can go down into like the darkness area, or you can go kind of towards the castle.
Yeah, it's weird. Like if you look at the central hub, the first area you pretty much go is left, then left up, then that's all done. Then you go to the right, then right down, then that's all done. Then you go directly down, and then down left, do all that. Then you go up.
It took me
and then you go beat the game.
I went down before I went right.
Yeah, you're fucking nuts, man.
Yeah, it took me forever to figure out like where to go down there because there are a couple of areas in this game that I think it definitely does not benefit them to like have it 2D, but there's definitely some areas that I didn't realize I could go through because it's just like a wall, and like because it took me forever to find the darkness area. The darkness area is the final like immortal boss that I beat. And I just walked through him because I beat I beat Galaxy Mage Amalvaro before I beat the Dark Knight, and he's way fucking harder than the Dark Knight.
Yeah. Even then, like even if you went to the Dark Knight first, you wouldn't really have much trouble, anyways.
Yeah, he's not super tough.
He was like the 5th boss I beat.
Dark Knight is like one of the bosses in this game where you just out DPS him and that's it.
Yeah, it felt like there were a couple of bosses that were like that. Like, Kusith felt just like because the boss is on a time limit because he's walking to the left, and if he gets to the end of the level before you kill him, you're basically fucked because you need to stand on platforms that he breaks as he walks. And if you don't do enough damage, it's like, what's the point of even doing this?
Yeah, I felt him, the Tundra Lord, the skeleton guy in the ice place, Eldritch Council, like the Bisurge Lightning Lurker, like there's quite a few bosses where I just stood still and just spammed my left click. So I kind of wish there was some way to make the combat a little bit more exciting. And this is where I think the game...
There's like the heroic versions of the bosses.
Yeah, I didn't try them at all because I don't know. That's just me, and like I would want to like experience everything first, then heroic.
Yeah.
Did you try the heroics?
I think I really only tried the heroic for the Owl King, and it's
how much harder?
It's more challenging. I don't think there are any more like boss moves or anything.
I feel like it just like probably kicks it up to like New Game Plus type of boss.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Even though you're not-
And I don't know. I think there are some of the bosses that you do kind of need to move around for, like Tundra Lord Karen. Like if you don't
well, certain
balance out,
stuff, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't balance out the platform, you fall off. And I thought the Bi-Surge Lightning Lurker, I thought that was a very interesting boss fight because you've got that whole mechanic of like being positively or negatively charged.
I didn't even understood that.
I think I'm pretty sure that you deal less damage if you are the same charge as what you're attacking, and you deal like regular damage if you're oppositely charged. That was my takeaway from that.
Okay, now that you say that, that makes sense, and I think I might have thought similarly. Yeah, no, for this one boss fight, like you go through an area where like you're forced to go through either like a red gate or a blue gate, and that'll give you like a charge.
Okay.
And I think those remind me, Zach, because I'm hazy. When like going through just the map before the boss, weren't those colors associated just so you could get through certain areas?
Not necessarily. You have to go through one gate or the other, and there's just kind of a bunch of enemies between you and the boss, and there's also like additional rooms where you find like some shortcuts, some like save points.
I thought it made it so you could go through certain stuff. I guess not. Maybe it was more to try to teach you the game mechanic of the boss before you reached it, I guess.
Yeah, that area was kind of weird for me. Like I had to look up some parts of like how to get through because I couldn't figure out like how to get the elevator working. There were some parts of this game that I just felt weren't extremely intuitive. Like I feel like Dark Souls is just very intuitive. Like you might not know exactly where like a key to a door goes or something, but you always kind of know what direction you're supposed to be going in. And I feel like this game you kind of know what direction you're going in, but the way forward might not always be super clear.
Yeah, I agree with that because I didn't know where I was supposed to go. I just happened to go the correct way, or like the easier, more how you're supposed to do it.
I feel like Dark Souls is kind of like that though, where you don't really know, and just like kind of happenstance of where you go. And
honestly, I think Dark Souls is a lot more linear than people say.
I think it depends on which Dark Souls. Like the first one.
First one I say is probably the most open. 2 is linear shit. 3 is clever and makes you think you have choices.
Yeah.
But you don't.
2 you have 2 choices at the very beginning.
Which?
So you can either go to where like the giant stone dudes are, or you can go down to that I don't know. I don't remember what.
Down the pit?
No, because you need the ring or you need a lot of health or whatever. But you go.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's not even really, because they both lead back to the same thing. It's more of a fork that leads back into the same path.
That's true.
And one of them doesn't even have a boss in it.
And you do have the area like that you need the fragrant branch of Yor to get to from the starting area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you do got like some areas where it branches out like that.
Yeah. Just in the beginning, not branched out, but eventually, then yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. But
yeah, since we were talking about bosses, do you have a favorite boss, Zach? I know, Noah, you haven't played a whole lot.
That's tough.
Well, I'll go, and I know you hate this boss, but he's my favorite, and I really liked Thalamus.
Thalamus, yeah.
And why I liked him was because he really diverged from a typical boss fight that you think is fighting a big baddie.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy, you're just dancing on the palm of his hand while he's giving you a crazy bunch of visions, and so much is going in the background of like flashiness and story.
That sounds cool.
It even throws like story right in the middle as you're fighting him. Like you'll like all of a sudden appear back in your home as a child, and talk to your mom some more, and then come back and all sorts of crazy things. And it's more of a platformer of dodging moves that he brings up. And it's more just survive a time limit, and then he's dead. And I just liked it because it was just very different. So
that's I wasn't the biggest fan of that boss, mostly because I'm not the biggest fan of platforming, and I also didn't like really the cutscenes in the middle of it because I played it like 2 or 3 times. So I just thought that was like it was like, oh man, it just killed the pacing of the fight for me. And it was kind of just like, oh, I just need to memorize everything that happens and just kind of run through it. So it definitely wasn't my favorite boss, but I understand.
I guess now that you say that you had to replay that a couple times makes sense. I one-shot him, I think.
Yeah, if I one-shot him, it probably wouldn't have been that bad. One thing that I really hated about it was the part at the beginning where you had to like wait for the wall to crush you.
that was
like doing that 2 or 3 times is like the most frustrating shit in the world.
It is a long wait.
That was really annoying.
A second favorite for me was the mage.
Yeah.
He was hard as shit.
Yeah, he was challenging. Took me like probably 10 plus tries to beat him.
He took me 15, and that is literally 5 times more than any other fucking boss. Like, on every other boss, I've died no more than 3 times.
He might have been my favorite. I did like I liked some of the aspects of Auriga, the sniper lady.
Yeah.
I liked some of the aspects of like the Tundra Lord. I think some of the bosses have very interesting mechanics, but Galaxy Mage is probably my favorite because that one you like really need to know how to like block and dodge, and it felt the most like a very challenging boss fight.
Yeah. One of the things I liked about him is there's multiple levels that you can stand on. And they're like
that was actually a little annoying for me actually, because one of the abilities you have with the greatsword is you jump and you do like a downward fire strike. The problem is you need to hit it while you're in the air, so you land so quickly because there are so many like levels to this thing that you can't really effectively do that. So I kind of had to switch that out.
You really had to like jump and immediately do it to like really get it off. But like I got a good example now to really explain it. Think of like you're on a sheet of paper, and one of those blue lines that run across is like the platform that you're standing on, and then you could jump above to the one above or drop down to the one below.
Think of it like a boss in Terraria where you've got a million of those platforms making a boss arena. And that's basically it.
It's a cool platform. Made some stuff a little frustrating to use and dodging some attacks and stuff.
Yeah, I liked how
but it was still neat.
You had to destroy those things, otherwise they would flood the board with like the little balls that hurt you if you run into them. And
those
like having to dodge the like lasers and stuff. I don't know. I think there's a lot of things to like about those fights. I also really liked Endless, the final boss. I thought that one kind of wrapped everything up really well. You could like choose what boss phases you wanted to do in what order. And
dude, she was really frustrating for me with her. Which phase was it? It was the one where she like summons down electricity, like lightning strikes, and also like pulses this force push out, and that force push knocked me off the ledge so many times.
Yeah, I think that happened to me as well.
But yeah, I liked her, but tough one.
Oh,
what about you, Noah?
Yeah, go ahead.
I haven't fought that many bosses, and none of them. I mean, like,
what's the last one you fought?
I'm currently on the sniper one.
Okay.
So I've beaten the Owl King, Phoenix, Tundra Lord, Bulwark, Forgotten Gaian, and the Dark Knight. I'd say probably out of those, my favorite was probably the Tundra.
Yeah, I'd
Lord.
say definitely his mechanics make it really fun because you're
it's
you're
much more
teeter-tottering on a platform.
Yeah, it's much more interesting than the rest.
I definitely like the part where he jumps away from the platform and you're on it, and then he summons giant icicle pillars that weigh down whatever side you're on. It just like makes it worse, and you just have to chop the ice up.
Yeah, and then you just like keep constantly switching sides and stuff, so it stays balanced. And, yeah, it was a fun fight.
Yeah, that was a fun active fight. Yeah, one of my more frustrating fights. Like, I didn't really die a whole lot. I think I died once or twice, but like, still one of my most annoying fights was the Soul of the Phoenix.
Yeah,
that one was pretty frustrating.
And you fight her again, like just
you?
before the end. Yeah, like an upgraded version, and eventually like 2 at a time. It's crazy.
Jesus.
Yeah, she summoned like a copy of herself, and that is super annoying because one of them, like the real version, will like launch fireballs at you from a distance while the second one is coming after you. And
then the Phoenix is flying by, breathing fire on everything.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I didn't like it because her moveset is like really reaching. Like she has a very far reach, and when it hits you, like you get kind of stunned. So like a lot of times when I try to hit her, she just hits me faster and more out of range, and that was just more frustrating.
I thought the one interesting thing about that boss fight was the fact that it drops more Phoenix plumes, which is like the Estus flask equivalent. So it drops like extra uses, but if you grab it, well, the boss can also grab it. So if it grabs it before you, I forget what happens.
They just heal.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, that made that whole fight absolute obsolete. It's just like, well, there's no point in this fight. I'll just keep on getting a feather and just heal myself whenever I take damage.
Yeah. And yeah, I think once I got like very good at parrying her attacks, I think I was able to get through it all right. But
parrying, you brought that. I want to talk about that a lot.
Okay.
And not just parrying itself, but a little bit more mechanics suited to you, the player. So what your character can do instead of just, fight with whatever weapons he has is he's also got a shield and a bow. The shield I hardly ever used because right in the beginning I had so little stamina and it seemed like anything I blocked just destroyed all of it, and then I just am stunned for a very long time. So I just kind of never used it and relied more on the dodging. And I just kind of honestly forgot about it until the last couple bosses where it was actually more useful since I had a lot more stamina. What about you? Have you utilized it a lot? You said you parried.
Yeah, I used the shield a decent amount.
Okay.
Because like you can get some pretty good shields by the end of the game, and I also was kind of regularly upgrading my stamina and stamina regeneration and stuff. But I definitely put most of it into strength.
Since we used it a lot, did the flavor text actually change anything? Or was that just flavor text?
Some of it does. There are some shields where, like, I think there's one shield that, I don't know, I forget the specifics. I might have to look it up, but there are shields that have like over time effects that definitely kind of influenced what shields I used, because there's like a better shield than what I have. My shield is like the second best in the game, but the best one in the game. I forget what exactly it does. I think when you have it out, it like slowly drains your stamina because it's so heavy.
I think I might have been using that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it said something about it's so heavy, like it takes a while to like bring it up or something. But like when I was using it, I'm like, this seems no different than any other shield I was using.
Oh. Then
that's what made me ask that. I never looked at like my stamina to see if it was draining or not.
Yeah, But otherwise, I used shields a decent amount, and also, you don't necessarily have to use a bow. You can equip any. You've got your primary weapon.
Yeah,
and
I
secondary
switched out my
weapon.
bow for a shield or a spear.
Oh shit! You could.
Yep.
Mhm.
What the fuck?
I think I had a gun once I got to the area with the lightning lurker, because there are some guns in that area that use like your rage meter to like, or whatever that one's called, to
Oh, I never
shoot
even
bullets.
tried the guns. But now I'm pretty mad that I could have just switched my shitty ass bow for a different weapon. Because I was like, what's the point of this bow? Like, it doesn't really provide a whole lot.
Yeah, not really.
Unless you skilled to that way. To like more finesse.
Yeah, well,
Or
that's what I
dexterity.
used. I used finesse a lot.
Yeah.
So I was using
The scythe required it?
Yep.
Oh. Thought that was a strength one.
Nope. Finesse.
You been using the shield at all, Noah?
Not once.
Yeah.
Like maybe during the tutorial I might have used it, but
Yeah.
past that I've never touched it.
Like there were some bosses that I thought it was very useful on, like Galaxy Mage, Amovaro. There were a lot of like the attacks where he would just like rush at you. There were certain attacks that I just wasn't even trying to parry because it wasn't like I wasn't able to do it consistently enough. So I just kind of like blocked as much of it as I could and then dodged. Speaking of frustrating fights, I did not figure out how to fight those ghost guys until like until I actually had to go to the dark area.
Thank you for bringing this up because I totally forgot about items.
Yeah, basically, there are these ghost guys where you got to throw these light pebbles at them. And that was really frustrating to me because I literally put a bunch of points into intelligence to get a spell that made me glow because I thought that would help me kill the ghosts. And it didn't work.
Oh no.
You have to throw the pebbles at them in order to be able to kill them. And I just thought that was dumb.
I guess it depends on how you figure it out because I thought it was fine, but mostly because I read that item before I encountered any ghosts. And then when I finally did, I remembered the item.
Does the item specifically say you need to use it to kill ghosts?
It doesn't like say that flat out, but it definitely heavily implies like, hey, maybe I should try this.
Oh, all right.
I think so. Hold on. I don't remember what it's called.
It's like
Lightstone.
Like by the time I figured out what it did, I had like over 100 of them. So it was not a problem. But otherwise, a couple of differences from Dark Souls that I think really helped is that you don't lose souls on death.
Yeah, I really like that.
I thought it was interesting that you lose Estus uses or Phoenix Plume uses that heal you. And you can go to where you died and pick them up, or you can just spend like kind of a flat amount of souls based on your level to get them all back. And another thing that I really liked that I actually used a decent amount was you could use plume uses to increase your attack that lowered, like you could say, okay, I'm going to use 5 plumes to increase my damage by 50%. And then you just have like 5 less plumes and you do 50% more damage. And I used that a lot once I got like more plumes.
Yeah, I really like the mechanic, but I never made use of it. And I should have because I didn't really use a whole lot of plumes through either boss fights or just...
There are some bosses where it's really good against. Like I used it against Kusith because that fight is essentially just a damage race if you're able to block his attacks effectively. And it's pretty good against I used it a lot in the area with like those giant guys and all the Owl King clones. There were definitely some areas where I think it was a lot better than others that you don't need to heal very much at. But other than that, is there anything else we want to go through before we like do story?
Yes, I had something, but I was just so much Googling about the Sunstone. but there's not a whole lot of information about this game online. Items. I think I want to talk a little bit more about items. I don't know what specific items because that's my problem. There's a bunch of items, but I never really used any of them because they weren't.
I didn't use them that much either. Like, there was a really annoying part where I didn't understand why I was dying, and then I figured out that it was like those parasites in my inventory that you had to like go through and drop all of them.
Yeah,
and that was kind of weird. It was like, what the fuck?
I like that mechanic a lot. I've seen it in other games.
I thought it was interesting. I just didn't understand what was happening.
Yeah. And it only happens in like one area, and then that's it.
Yeah. Beyond that, like with regards to like weapons and shields and stuff, I felt like I was pretty regularly getting like better shields. I never found anything that I thought was better than the greatsword, so I never used anything besides the greatsword. And I kind of just used equipped items that seemed to give me like the most vitality and strength, and that seemed to work out pretty good. I upgraded them as much as I could. Upgrading stuff in this game was tough. Like I don't think I upgraded anything like to the max because it's just so expensive to upgrade stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of upgrades, I actually liked how they did the plume upgrade. Is they literally give you a different type of plume.
That was also interesting, definitely.
I liked it because they're actually like very different from each other. So I got a thing pulled up. So the first plume you get restores 120 health and takes 1.5 seconds to cast. And then a second one you get is a quickened plume. So it restores health, like 50 more health, but you use it a lot faster. Only 1 second compared to 1.5. And then there's some others where like, if you use this, it'll reduce your damage by 30% for X amount of seconds or something like that. So it also, some will just increase the health, some will increase health and like give you a different status effect as well, which I really liked. However, eventually then it becomes like, what can I do with that plume, like the very weakest plume that's still sitting in my bag? I guess it could sell it. I never really sold many items.
Once I got to kind of the end of the game when I was getting a lot of copies, I started selling a lot more because I was trying to upgrade stuff.
Yeah, I sold a lot of the equipment that I would pick up and wasn't using it all. Or I guess I sold that until I got to the point where I could disenchant or whatever to get materials to like upgrade items and stuff. Yeah, I didn't sell much otherwise.
Wait, you can enchant, Noah?
Or like not like upgrade.
I thought you were taking like enchanting because that's the guy that you buy the scythe stuff from.
No.
There's nothing really else popping in my head that I can think about talking. There probably was, but we can move on to story.
I'm probably going to dip out once we get to a point where I'm at in story, just because I will probably eventually end up finishing this.
All right.
Honestly, I don't even know what to talk about the story because I really wasn't following along until like the Thalamus part, like not the boss himself, but like the area, and then like the story kind of piqued my interest, and now I'm like, oh, what the fuck is actually happening?
Yeah, the story's a little weird. Like this is much more of a story-driven game than some other similarly typed games.
Yeah,
and
what I liked was this story really, really revolved around like your character dying and death and immortality.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of Soul games, like they're kind of about that, but it's so subtle. And it's not really about your character that can keep coming back and fucking fighting everyone.
Oddly enough, the story of this game really reminded me of the story of Sekiro.
Yeah.
Because okay, obviously we are getting into spoiler territories, so if you ever plan on playing this game and or care about the story, shut the podcast off. But yeah, it definitely did revolve around like your character dying. Like I thought a lot of the NPCs were actually pretty interesting. Like the lizard guy is just really disdainful for you because he's like, "Oh, you're shit. You died, and you're just kind of just an undead soldier walking around." And he kind of comes around later on, and then you've got Ione, who's like working with the bad guy, but then eventually you beat her a couple of times, and she's like, "Oh, maybe I'm on the wrong side or whatever." And
well, no, she didn't think that. you fought her a couple times. That basically made her look so worthless that her boss was just like, fuck you.
yeah, it's like
So you kind of ruined her whole plan and everything. So she's like, she comes back and is like, hates you, but thinks it might be okay for the better good, maybe.
Yeah, eventually, like before the end of the game, she's like, okay, maybe they are the bad guys.
Yeah. So yeah, you start the game out dead, and you're like, your corpse is being dragged by a lizard dude, and then you like come to life. I think that's when death comes and like makes a contract with you.
Yep. And Death is like, hey, I've got something I need you to do. Let's go do this thing. And
like every game, your character's like, yes,
sure, why not? Yeah.
And then I don't know. From there on until like Thalamus, I don't even know what the story was. All I know is the end game is you're trying to get to the Citadel, which is where the immortality is.
Like the source of immortality is, and basically you're working with Death because he wants you to destroy the source of immortality.
Yeah, because if everyone becomes immortal, that upsets the balance, and Death can't work. And
yeah, and there's a lot of like kind of reasoning like why Death is necessary, and kind of why people need Death, and why you need to like come to accept that.
Yeah.
And there's like there's a whole story about like, oh, you were a little kid and your mother went off to do something and never came back, and a lot of the game is what?
She was a soldier, right?
Yeah, and she went off to like fight a war or something, and then died and never came back, or at least that's what you think happened. And this is what
Noah's here. Careful.
Yeah, I know.
Even though it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know that many specifics about the actual story. It's mostly just like the end of the story, like what the big twist at the end is, and that you're working with Death to kind of destroy the source of immortality, and that's basically the gist of the story. And you're going through the game and killing all the immortals.
Well, what I do find interesting is everyone seems very skeptical of you about like going there and finding the source, because everybody thinks that you're going to be using it or something, which I thought was kind of fucking weird because you're kind of already immortal.
Yeah, essentially.
But like the dragon dude and Eon were like very like, we're going with you, and if you're gonna take it, we're gonna fucking stop you.
Yeah, well, I think like the sniper boss brings it up. If you like die to her, 'cause, like she puts you in prison, and then you kill yourself and you come back, and she's like, "Why are you trying to get to the cathedral or whatever if you're already immortal? Like, what point?"
Oh shit! I didn't know she threw you in prison.
Yeah.
It's like the first couple of times you fight her.
And then there's like a blade in there that you can commit suicide with.
Oh, cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we could talk about like the even more spoilers. So yeah, I think what I liked. I should have talked about this before you left, but I don't think it really matters. I do like how they present the story. Is they show a lot of cutscenes of your character back in his home along with his mom. And when they show those scenes is a lot of times after you die. And I thought that's really cool.
I thought it definitely felt like there was a sense of progression. Like in the canon, it's like the more you die, the more you like lose a grip on who you are. And it kind of explains why the more times you die, the more of these like flashbacks and stuff you see. So I thought that was actually pretty interesting. The one thing I found weird was like the place that you go to when you die that one time. It's like you have this weird like boss rush of fighting the Endless and then fighting the people you were allied with, which I think is like all like hallucination. And then if you die during that, it sends you down to like this underwater place, I think.
Yeah, so that was all Thalamus, like
Yeah, that was a
fucking with you.
Thalamus thing.
Yeah, that honestly messed with my brain so much. Because yeah, then you like fight those two characters who are like against you using them.
And then you get out of it and they're like, what are you doing? Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing that weirded me out about the NPCs is they're in multiple locations because they'll like stay at their spot in Firelink, but they'll also be at their spot outside of the castle gates, and they will appear in multiple scripted locations simultaneously, which I found just kind of weird.
Is that every NPC or is that a couple? Because I noticed at least with the dragon guy with the huge axe.
It happens with like the main ones, like it happens with Ione and it happens with the lizard guy.
Okay.
Obviously, like most of the NPCs, like the vendors and stuff, just kind of there's just kind of one of them, and they just sit around.
Okay.
Did you have the fucking guy who, if you don't buy stuff from him, he like comes after you a bunch of times and tries to murder you?
Is that little fucker? With
Yeah,
the
it's
shank?
a weird fucking gremlin guy with the shank.
I've noticed him like in a few different areas, and I never knew what the hell was up with him. I didn't know he was
Yeah,
a
he's in the starting area, and he's got a bunch of like useless shit. And if you don't buy from him, he's like, "Oh God, now I hate you." And he comes at you throughout like the entire game and just like tries to stab you and murder you.
That's hilarious.
And during New Game Plus, I just bought stuff from him every time I talked to him, and then he's like cool with you. And I don't know if he just doesn't come back later or what happens, but it's if he just like doesn't bother you for the entire game, if you actually just buy stuff from him, I think that'd be kind of an interesting game mechanic.
Yeah.
Well,
I had a
it's not
coworker,
mechanic, but it's a feature.
Yeah, I had a coworker who played this game, and he told me, like right away in the game, like to kill the lizard guy that was just like sitting up on the wall, like in the main hub. Because apparently, like as you kill bosses and stuff, he'll eventually just kill all the merchants.
Oh.
So like you kill him, he doesn't kill any of them, I guess.
Oh, that's interesting.
But like I killed him. Seems like you didn't kill him, but still.
No, I didn't kill him. I don't think he killed any of the merchants, or at least none that I noticed.
I feel like you definitely would have noticed. So I wonder if that was even true.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyways, we're getting a little off topic.
Yeah.
A little bit back to story. To no surprise, because you could almost call it from the beginning of the game.
Like when
Endless is your mother.
Yeah.
Which Endless is the last boss.
I thought when like it got to the part after the Eldritch Council, like after that boss, and it's like you find a corpse after that boss, and it's like you think that's your mother, and you're like real. I thought that was actually pretty sad, and I'm like, oh, that kind of sucks. But then, it's just the Endless is your mother, and she's trying to use the source of immortality to make like everybody immortal, and like that's basically like all the enemies you fought up to this point have been like brought back with that, which I think is their kind of justification for all the enemies coming back after you rest at a death statue.
That makes sense, yeah.
And I thought that was kind of interesting that they have like an in-world reason for all of them coming back.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I really wish they handled the reveal. I don't even know if they call it a reveal or what their intentions were. Because like you fight Endless a couple times throughout the story.
Yeah, a couple of times.
I could tell right away from just the first fight. I'm like, I bet this is your mother.
No, I didn't notice until later.
Oh, I could see it just by like her model type, and I'm like, all they changed was her hair color. So
yeah. One thing I wish they kind of did is I wish they gave you the option to destroy the source of immortality at the end of the game. So that it was like, oh, there are two ends. One where you don't destroy this, or because it didn't really seem like it was giving you a choice.
I thought you were supposed to destroy it. I destroyed it.
Yeah. I don't think there was a choice not to destroy.
Oh, you meant take it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would have been interesting. Like, obviously, the ending where you destroy the source of immortality is like the ending they were going for, the ending that you were kind of supposed to do. But I kind of wish they gave you the option to not do it, because it sounded like Endless or your mother is like really pushing you to not destroy it, because she's got like a justification like, oh, nobody would ever die. Nobody would have to lose a loved one again. And
yeah, and with how much influence that they have with Dark Souls, like Dark Souls does that exact thing too.
Yeah, it definitely gives you more of a choice.
Not just that, but like literally almost the same sort of setup as well, like immortality or not. You want the world to live in darkness the whole time, or relight the Kindle? Yeah, maybe they just ran out of time or something, but it would have been nice to have some sort of choice. Though I guess if they're trying to make a solid story and be like, no, we want this end, only this end, then I'm fine with it too. But any last thoughts?
Yeah, we could give like our final recommendations. Like, do you think you'd recommend this game to other people?
I would. I liked it. I really like some of the boss fights, and I really think some of the boss fights were worth it for this game. However, I would definitely recommend other sort of 2D platform games above this one.
Yeah.
So, like for example, if you have not played Hollow Knight and you've not played this game, do Hollow Knight.
I mean, if you're a game like this and you're coming up against Hollow Knight, you're gonna lose every time.
Well, yeah. Hollow Knight, I just bring up since it's one of the platform games we've done.
Yeah. It's like hands down one of the best games of the genre. I would definitely recommend that one over this one. But if somebody has played like a lot of, also Hollow Knight is cheaper than this game, which I find amazing, because Hollow Knight has
true. Like
easily you will put double the amount of time into Hollow Knight.
I'd probably save it more than double.
Yeah. I've probably put double the amount of time into Hollow Knight, and I haven't even gotten to like the secret ending or beat all of the second phases of all the bosses, because
okay, yeah, I'm at 22 hours.
I don't know. I feel like that one encourages you to do the second phases of all the bosses a lot more. But I think if you need to have a very niche taste in games for me to recommend this game to you. Like, I think if you've played Hollow Knight, if you've played games like Salt and Sanctuary, and you really like those kind of 2D kind of Souls-like or Souls-esque games, I'd certainly recommend this game.
However, if you like those games because of the challenges, then I would not recommend it, because I don't think this game was challenging at all.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't. I thought it was an all right game. I'm not really sure if it's good enough that I would recommend it to a lot of people, but I certainly enjoyed my time with it. Peace out, everybody. It's available. I found it a little bit weird that it was available like only on PC and PlayStation 4. I found that kind of weird.
Oh, not for Xbox?
No, I don't think so. Unless I messed up on that.
PlayStation 4, Microsoft Windows. So yeah, you're correct.
So available at those places. And I think we can call it there.